Serious. Number one operators of Reddit. What is the scariest call you've ever answered? I've posted this before when someone asked me what the most important call I've ever had in my job. So here it goes. I'm a 911 police dispatcher. The most important phone call I ever received is when I started with the police about 16 years ago. I was 21, about 2 months in, very green, and still getting used to this crazy job. So I get a call from a male who flipped his car on the highway and was trapped. This wasn't unusual, to be honest. It does happen from time to time, especially in rural areas at night when people drive while they're sleepy. Most people are bugged out about screaming while I try to get their info and send help. My job is basically to obtain a location, start a police and fire ambulance rolling their way, and to keep the caller calm and speaking to me, to make sure he doesn't lose consciousness. So the involved driver, who I'll call Zach, was about my age-ish, early 20s, very calm and cooperative, and even joking. He was hanging upside down because the car was on its side, and he had injured his leg. It was all good. Help was about 10 minutes out, and Zach and I were chatting and even laughing about this crazy experience. I know he was blocking the roadway in the vehicle and was hoping a passerby would stop and help out. Unfortunately, he was on a blind corner, and a car came flying around and struck his rolled over vehicle while he was still talking to me. Lots of screaming and yelling. I could hear he was pretty messed up, but I tried to keep him talking. He was just coughing and moaning. Sadly, the 10 things that needed to happen for a car to ignite happened. Smoke and flames started pouring into Zach's car, and he started screaming, "Fire, I'm on fire." Basically, I was listening while this poor kid burned to death. I still think about that call daily when I come to work. I've trained several new dispatchers and told the story to them all. I said that it is the most important call I've ever taken because nothing will ever be as bad as that. It helped me deal with all sorts of madness I've involved in, including hundreds of sexual assaults, domestics, shooting, pursuits, hostage situations, you can name it. But yeah, after that, the rest of this is easy. I've only been in this job for a little over a year, so I don't have a ton of experience to draw from yet. The scariest call I've taken was picking up the phone just screaming. Just screaming. Tried to get her address from her a few times. Finally gave up and just went with the call drop because there was thankfully a really tight radius and I needed to get the call on screen immediately so officers could be dispatched. Because something was truly going on there. I was fortunate she had called in before, so I looked the phone number up and found the address. It fell directly within the cell drop. Turned out she had been stabbed in the head and face by her partner. That's why she was unable to do anything other than scream. He's been charged with attempted murder. So, at least there's that. That's kind of a tough question. I'll say it's the call I took when training when a woman had found her 12-year-old daughter unconscious on top of a four-wheeler. This model had a gas cap on top up front, so her daughter had got on the four-wheeler, taken the gas cap off, and huffed gas fumes until she passed out. We had to walk mom through CPR, but as in a lot of cases, she realized her daughter was breathing. Panic makes it hard to calmly check for pulse and such. What really sticks out to me, though, is one night, back in 2011, we had bad tornadoes rip through Chattanooga. During the night shift, as it was all going down, our lines were completely jammed and we couldn't call out. People were asking us to call loved ones, but we couldn't. We also couldn't send help anywhere that wasn't a full-blown life or death emergency. And what stands out even more is a fire dispatcher called a supervisor over and said they keep getting on the radio with their locations. What are they doing? The supervisor said, they're telling you where to look for their bodies if a tornado kills them. The emergency community is really tight-knit, not just because we work together, but in a real sense we all rely on each other to do our jobs right, to save lives, and to keep each other safe. A missed address, a forgotten bulletin, get lazy, get angry, someone can die. and all you can do is sit and listen. If you're ever one to feel powerless, sit on a phone and listen to someone cry and beg for help. You can only send help, but you never pull them out of a fire. You never catch the bad guy. And every cop with you on the radio expects you to keep them safe and their buddies safe. I left the job because I couldn't do it anymore. And 2011's tornado outbreak had a lot to do with it. It's a hell of a thing to listen to people call for help, and you can't do a damn thing. It was for my time at my center, but this story sticks with me. We're fairly close to New York City. One of the trainees was sitting at a police desk the morning of 9/11. At the time, the New York City Police Department was using radio bands that traveled great distances to interfere with our radios in such a way that we could clearly hear their ground comms. That morning, immediately after the first plane hit, my sitter started being inundated with calls looking for help finding loved ones, suspicious activity involving non-white people, and generally just being slammed. So the trainee, being unequipped to answer the calls fast enough, was placed on a different desk to just listen to radios. It just so happened that the day that the New York City Police Department radios were interfering with ours, so he spent 4 hours listening to the crews going into buildings, those same crews not answering a PAR, and the subsequent maelstrom of situations that followed. He killed himself about 12 years later. It was strongly suggested that he was due largely to those 4 hours on the radio. I want to break the story real quick here, guys, and say that 9/11 was a tragedy that we won't heal from for quite a while. We still currently have people in the U.S. that are suffering from effects, whether it's PTSD, mesothelioma from the asbestos in the building, people still having all sorts of issues from 9/11 happening, just being in the general vicinity of it. So, never forget, and please keep yourself safe out there. That's all I ask. Anyways, back into character, back into the stories. Let's go. I've posted this before. I'm a former 111 operator from New Zealand. Our emergency call system works differently from 911, where you call 111 and your call is answered by an operator like me, who says 111, fire, ambulance, or police. As the caller, you must make the decision on the operator connects you to service you require. If you require more than one service, i.e. multiple vehicles, ETAs, one service will arrange the other. So police will arrange fire and ambulance. Often there are delays. In the day of my Scariest call, we had a police delay of 15 minutes. The call went close to this. Me, 111, fire, emergency, ambulance. Him, I'm not sure. I just wanted someone to know where I am. Me, are you in any danger? Can I connect you to the police? Him, I just wanted to say goodbye, really. Me, connecting you to police. Please stay on the line with me. Him pauses. No, it's okay. And then there was an awful noise where the guy has stepped into a geothermal hot pool at a state park in Rotorua. The pool was boiling temperatures, and he had just hopped on in. Police took some time to answer the call, and I had to explain to them that it had happened. I won't ever be forgetting the noises. I can't describe it well, but I will be with me the rest of my life. A few days later, I was sick and tired of the job, and yelled at a caller for being complete numpty, and was fired. Not even sorry. I was never offered support or counseling for the events I'd heard or been a part of. I only did the job for 6 weeks before a suicide call did me in. I wasn't even trained to be anything more than a 911 call taker yet. A few stand out. I took a call from my previous boss my first night shift after being told I never talked to someone I knew. Not in 20 years. Ironic. The elderly man who called in at 6 a.m. and saying, "This is going to be weird, but I woke up and I think my wife is dead." The girl who called screaming that she was on a bad date and was going to rape her. At first, the adrenaline is flowing and I'm scared as shit. This was another first or second night shift call. I can hear the guy yelling that she's just drunk. He was a blind date and he's driving her home. Safely. I still don't know who's telling the truth here. The woman who called crying because her infant was having multiple seizures. It was New Year's Eve, and the ambulance was backed up for ages. All I could do was stay on the line with her while the ambulance dispatcher, just ragged busy over and over. It was nearly 10 minutes of singing lullabies with this woman to her tiny baby before an ambulance was able to get out to her call. That was probably the scariest because I felt like I was going to be the one in line with this woman when her baby died. The same night, I had a call that was screaming girls and broken glass, but the call didn't connect properly. There was no callback number and we got disconnected. Amazingly, when the caller called back, I got her again. So I was able to direct the call to the same downstream call taker to figure out what bar these girls were in. They reported someone was throwing glasses at them over and steel door in the bathroom. The call that ultimately lost my job. Guy calls in saying, "Oh, so matter of factly, just thought you know that I'm going to kill myself. Nope, not going to tell you who I am, not going to tell you where I am. I just want to know that when you find my body, I did myself in." I didn't know how to handle it. I burst into tears once he hung up. The downstream call taker heard me cry and reported the unprofessionalism to my team leader, and I lost my job. So, we've come to the end of the video, and I'm trying not to make these videos preachy at all, just trying to share the stories. But 911 operators of any country, my hat is off to you. You deal with some horrific, brutal things, and your job just expects you to handle it. You're human. And we have emotions, we have feelings, and just because it is your job to deal with these things doesn't mean you have to do it alone. Reach out, find someone. If you need to talk about something, talk about something. Certain jobs like this, I believe, should, offer counseling or pay for therapy or something like that, but most of them don't. I work very closely with officers and hear stories like this constantly, and I know they don't offer, most police departments don't offer counseling of any kind. Their insurance don't offer it either. So, do what you can to protect yourself mentally and physically, of course. Just know that we thank you for all that you do.